Funky at noon Eastern Standard Time every Saturday for our music show, Give Me the Night, here on iLive Radio, and enjoy a nooner like no.
Attention all musicians, bands, associations, clubs, and organizations that represent collective styles of music across Canada. Now is the time to rebuild our collective music nation. Genres like hip-hop, R&B, jazz, soul, reggae, gospel, and more united. The Collective Music Nation is a non-profit organization committed to the development of collective music. Free memberships are available now. Collective Music Nation. One voice. Strength in unity.
Canadian Black Entertainment's mission is to create, celebrate, and promote Black artistry. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Instagram for our IG Live with CBE, where we interview artists. Follow us on IG and spread the word. We are here for our artists and are creating a space for them to get the recognition they so deserve. Canadian Black Entertainment, IG Live with CBE, every Wednesday beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you on the gram.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
The number one hit music station.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me this Sunday afternoon. And so on today's show, we're going to be talking about relationships. We're going to be talking about getting into relationships, getting out of relationships. How do you know it's time to get out when you're supposed to get out, so you can maintain your sanity, as well as how do you know maybe you should stick around and try to figure it out. In our society today, relationship seems to have become like an iPhone, wherein everybody's just replacing things all over the face, and people forget that sometimes that they can stick around and fix things. So on today's show, I've got Kathy Maloney sitting in the studio across from me, and we're going to be diving into this. Hi, Kathy.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me in the studio today. So you are a relationship transition coach.
I am.
So let's talk about what the heck is a relationship transition coach. People transitioning into the relationship, people transitioning out of relationships, people trying to stick it out.
So I'll start from the beginning. I was actually a separation and divorce coach. I am a separation and divorce coach and a family mediator. And so what I found over the course of a couple of years is that when people hear the word divorce, they usually think about getting out. It's always about getting out. And what I find is there's sometimes people think that it's time to get out, but really it's about shifting and changing and transitioning into, varying versions of themselves. And potentially the relationship has the ability to withstand the test of time, I might say. And so I decided that I was going to change my title to Relationship Transition Coach, only because there are a lot of opportunities for people to shift within the relationship, individually and or together. So a relationship transition coach is simply that. It's the relationship changing and hopefully changing for the better. And sometimes it's the relationship within yourself, not between the two people, but it's really about yourself.
So your role, I guess you could say, is to help them discover that journey of the relationship with themselves, with their partners, and with the world around them.
Exactly.
Okay. So what was it why is this important for you? Why was this such a passion for you to get involved in?
So I didn't know this was a passion until I got a divorce. And my divorce was, I would say, a high conflict divorce, which a lot of people, I'm sure, have experienced in some way, shape, or form. And it's really hard to navigate through that, especially if there's kids involved. And so when I went through my situation, I call it my personal struggle, I just thought it was really beneficial to me to sort of surround myself with people who understood, and even if they didn't fully understand, who were willing to hear me and listen to me and maybe sometimes validate, that I wasn't going crazy. It's sometimes just as simple as that. And so to become a coach for people who are going through relationship struggles, divorces, whatever the situation may be, was I think a gift that was given to me that came out of my divorce, to be honest with you.
So people come to you and they're like, okay, Kathy, I need you to fix me. Is that what it is?
In essence, I guess, they don't say those exact words because I don't fix anybody. I think that we all have everything that we need within us. It's just, it takes someone like myself, and depending on how deep your trauma goes, a therapist of some sort, to really just bring out certain things in you and show you certain things about yourself, help you walk down the path of understanding yourself a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do people, like when they come to you and they're saying, you know, I need to, like, what is that? Do they come, do they even know what it is that they're looking for?
Some people know, okay, I want a divorce.
Yeah.
How do I do this? So as a family mediator, I understand the law. So I give them a lot of legal information in terms of the things that they can look forward to. And just be prepared for. So whether it's gathering documents, financial documents, or understanding, you know, if you were going to buy someone out of the house or stay in the house, what does that look like? Sorry, are you able to stay in the same area as your ex-partner? Is someone looking to move? It's all of that. But let's say they come to me and they say, you know, I don't know, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
Right? I really just, we start the dialogue of, what do you want? You know, what do you see for yourself? Is this someone that you can mend things with? Or is it at the point where maybe there's abuse going on, and it can be emotional, physical, you know, whatever the situation? What is it that you actually want? And then is it feasible? You know, if you did the changing and let's say the other person wasn't willing to be an active participant in change within themselves and or the relationship, is this something you still want? So it really just depends on where they're at in their journey, and we start from there.
So for somebody who doesn't know what they want,
Right.
There's a lot of people walking around, you ask them what they want, and
Yeah.
they can tell you 1,000,001 ways things that they don't want.
Right.
But for them to be able to really say what it is that they want,
Right.
either there's fear surrounding around it because, you know, they're afraid to say what they want for whatever reason, or they just simply don't know what
Yeah.
they want, or don't really know what might be good for them.
Right.
Like how do you help somebody navigate through something like that? Because that's, you know, some deep rooted stuff that
Absolutely.
may not be that easy.
So again, the process starts with, yes, what do you want? And if you don't know what you want, well, then why is it? So that's sort of the question that I have in the back of my mind. And asking them why they don't know what they want is irrelevant because they're not going to be able to answer it. So really then it's digging deeper and having the right questions to ask. And this is why I often tell people, you can talk to your friends about your situation, and your friends are going to come at it from their perspective and what they would do in your situation. And when you hire someone like myself, what I do is I start to ask you questions to get you thinking about some of the things you might want. I listen to your story, and I don't let you... I don't let you live in your story, but I do listen to a good amount of your story. And from that, I'm able to pull things out. I'm able to pull out patterns. There are certain things, even in your nonverbals, that I'm catching on to. So just because you're saying something doesn't necessarily mean that is true. And so there's being trained, there's certain things that I'm going to pick up on. And I'm going to be able to then ask the right questions to sort of help you start to navigate what it is you want. And somewhere in those questions, there are going to be breakthrough moments. And that's sort of how that's where we take the conversation.
So when I would assume that when people come to you, they're at probably one of the lowest points in their life.
Yes.
When they are struggling with, you know, the relationship, themselves in the relationship. Like there's so many severed nerves blowing around in the wind. That has to be addressed. How do you help them to start to navigate those individual feelings?
Right. I'm big on self-love. So a lot of the time that's where I like to take people into that self-love world, because I actually run a support group for, and I'll give a shout out to Paul, the Paul Riley firm, law firm in Toronto. And what he's done is he's taken his clients. So we have a group of females, and we're literally just starting the males because we've separated the two. Okay. So the support group for the males and the support group for the women. And as a lawyer, there's certain things that they just don't deal with, right? When it comes to the emotions and all that sort of stuff, everything you just said. So what I do is I take them down this path. And one of the topics that we talked about was self-love. And one of the comments that one of the ladies had made was, I have spoken and thought more about myself in the past 40 minutes than I have in 40 years. And so I find that we often are in relationships with a version of ourselves. Yeah. And so I really try to get people to start to understand themselves, start to know themselves, start to love themselves, or at least aspects of themselves, and grow on that. Because without that, that's how we get lost in the wind of it all. Because we're not grounded in anything, you know? So self-love is really what I try to get people to zone in on, and then anything I think is possible after that.
If you're just joining us now on the Patrick O'Moore Show here on iLive Radio, first of all, I'd say, click that like button and also subscribe to iLive Radio. With me today is Kathy Maloney, and we're talking about relationships, transitioning, because she's a relationship transitional coach. Got it.
Got it, yes.
Now, we live in a society that it's really easy to hide our feelings, hide our emotions, put our best life on Instagram or Twitter or something like that, right? But we're struggling with our own demons. Sometimes we don't want to face them. And we'll do whatever we can not to face them, put that on our partners, put them on our kids, put that like wherever we, other than daring to look at ourselves naked in the mirror.
That's right.
And kind of pick ourselves apart. So when somebody comes to you and they're struggling with being able to really see themselves, see the challenges that they're facing in their life and how those challenges are impacting, other people. Like they might come to you and be like, my partner is hard-headed and is not listening, or is not doing this, or is not doing that. But then when you talk to them, and they start to realize, okay, wait, maybe I should be looking me too. There's a hard transition that people have to go through to realize that in that dance in the relationship that they're doing, that it's not just the other person.
That's right.
So so how do you, I guess, nicely help them to kind of discover that?
Right. Take responsibility.
There might be some time you want to slap them upside the head and say,
well, let's not say that I am a professional, but yes, okay.
Oh, and by the way, if you're listening to us on the app or on the website, and you want to watch the live stream, you can do so on YouTube. And if you have any questions, by all means, you can pop them in there as well, and I'll try to get Kathy to answer those. So aside from slapping them upside the head,
which we do not do at all.
They might need it. I don't know.
Patrick's words, not mine. Okay. Let's make that a note to self. Okay. So honestly, you mentioned mirror, looking at themselves in the mirror. Yeah. So what I also do is do a lot of mirror work. I have my clients do a lot of mirror work. And what that basically is literally looking at yourself in the mirror. We can all give really great advice to people that we care about and that we love. And it's really hard for us to give it to ourselves or to take our own advice sometimes. Being accountable and taking responsibility for your part in the demise of a relationship is paramount. If you cannot own your responsibility, and sometimes it's just a greater understanding of yourself that maybe you didn't have while you were going through the struggle. And so being able to look at yourself in the mirror and to say, what was my role in this? What was I to learn from this? And if you take enough time to do that sort of work, I think you're going to come to a greater understanding of yourself, which then leads to self-love, right? It lends to self-love. And you walk out into the world, I think it starts you start to become a different person, really, because you're now seeing the world, relationships, yourself from a very different place, right? From a different lens. In regards to like Instagram and people putting wonderful, shiny things up there, it's all a distraction. It's a distraction from their reality because it's hard to face your reality. It's hard to look at yourself in the mirror. And once you've gone on for so long doing that, and you're getting that feedback that validates this need in you. Exactly. It's something, but it's not real. And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand, that that's not real. It's a perception of you, and maybe it is a version of you, but there's so much more to you. And by looking at yourself in the mirror and having these moments of deeper understanding of self, I know these are, very clinically type phrases, but really it's just looking at yourself in the mirror and talking to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And being honest with yourself, because if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anybody. Let's just be real.
Is it okay to answer yourself when you're talking to yourself?
Absolutely. Well, you have to, right? You have to. Self-talk. It's a lot of self-talk.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of talking yourself off that ledge. Again, we can call a friend and we can talk to everybody under the sun, and we can repeat the exact same story 1,000,001 times because we want someone to say, you're right, they're wrong. And you will find those people who will say, you're right, they're wrong. But number one, they don't know the whole story. Number two, you're not going to tell them the whole story because you don't want to look bad, right? So really, they're coming from a perspective that's not real, again.
On the flip side of that, I'm sure there's some people that might come to you where they think everything is their fault.
Right, yes, this is true. This is true.
And, whether or not they were involved with a narcissist or,
That's a whole conversation in itself. Ooh, that's juicy. Uh-huh.
So, how do you help them to make that transition? That's a hard nut to crack, especially, in our society. There's so many people who've had childhood traumas.
Absolutely.
That plays out in their relationships.
Yeah.
Plays out in the partners they choose.
Yeah.
And after a while, they're thinking, everybody's the same.
Yeah.
Every woman's the same. Every man's the same because
generalizations. Yeah.
Because everybody they're dating is the same, but they're dating out of their trauma.
That's right. And therefore, they are dating the exact same person, technically, in essence. Yes.
But then the relationship falls apart, and then it just adds to that trauma.
That's right.
And everything woes me. Everything's my fault. I should have. I don't know. I should have loved more. I should have done this. I should have whatever those things are.
Yeah.
For somebody like that, what do you do?
Yeah.
You
So
still can't hit them, right?
no, you can't hit them. So for people like that take all of it on their own shoulders, and it's always my fault and whatever, and what am I doing wrong, and what's wrong with me, and all that type of self-talk, that negative self-talk. Yeah. So there are many exercises that we do, and one of them is basically literally shifting your mindset. So it's flipping it on its head, changing your story, reworking your story. Yeah. But before we can even get to that, it's a lot of just understanding your patterns of behavior within the relationships, and then digging deeper into where do you believe this comes from. So talk to me about your childhood. That's where it all starts, right? Because a lot of things they become very subconscious. And if in the coaching world, we talk about icebergs. And so if you look at an iceberg, you see what you see above the surface. And, you can avoid that. But below, there's so much going on, so much below the surface going on. And you cannot avoid it. It creeps into everything you do. And that's your subconscious, right? And so it's to then make your subconscious conscious, so that everything that you do, everything you say, every interaction you have, it's because you're hyper aware of why you're doing what you do. So when people who are the negative self-talkers, and they tend to be codependent people, they tend to be people who need to be liked. Okay. Right? And so they go out of their way to make people want to be around them, make people like them. They're the people that even if somebody doesn't ask for help, they're going to try and help them. And then they get disappointed. They get very disappointed very easily because their expectations are not met, right? And then they put that negative self-talk on themselves. And so, again, it's the patterns of behavior, and why do you believe that you do the things you do based on your past history? And once we can tap into that, and I'm not a therapist, so as a therapist, they really live in the past. They go into the murky water with you, and they'll stay there for a long time. What I do is I dip into it so that we can sort of have a base of understanding, so that we can then move into the future. So now that you're aware that this has happened, and if there's a lot of childhood traumas and abuse and all that stuff, I tend to not work with people like that, just because that a lot of time they end up depressed. And so I don't deal with mental illness as such. And so I dip my foot into it with my clients, and then I push forward into the future. So now that you're aware, it's become, you're conscious of the fact that this is why you might be doing X, Y, and Z. How can we try to get you out of that as you move into your future?
So when I was like 4 years old, there was a kid who stole my lollipop.
You stole your lollipop. Okay, we're going here. Okay.
And it really hurt me.
Right.
And ruined my life.
Got it.
Can you fix that?
I don't think your life has been ruined, though. So I'd have to actually believe what you're saying, first of all. Remember, it's a nonverbal cue, so you can't say things like that and then laugh, right? If you had tears, very different story.
I'll cry next time.
Right.
But this, I joke, but these are some of the real life struggles.
Yes.
We talk about abuse.
Yeah.
Which at a certain point in our history was somewhat normalized.
Unfortunately.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And abuse in many, many different ways.
Right.
And that plays out in our lives in horrendous ways sometimes.
Yeah.
How we view ourselves based on things that were forced into us, beaten into us, things we were told as a child growing up.
Right.
Being of Caribbean descent and having friends who are also Caribbean descent, born in Jamaica, grew up here.
Right.
I've heard all the stuff, and so have a lot of my friends heard all the negative talk that the older generation sort of downloaded on this generation, and which was.
Hey, this is Emily King, and you're listening to iLive Radio.
The internet's number one on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio. This is Jay Most. Enjoy.
Wow.
We're back.
That's my fault. We're back. That was my fault. I forgot to hit that button. So being a Caribbean descent, the trauma that our parents had,
generational trauma,
right? The generational trauma that came from our parents, which came from their grandparents, and so on and so on. Over time, it may have trickled down a little less. So the verbal abuse that my generation may have gotten would be a little bit less than what our parents probably got.
Right.
And sometimes we don't even realize what impact that has on us,
right.
How we view ourselves, and then how important it is, how that impacts the relationships. Because how we view ourselves is huge in how our relationships work.
Absolutely.
Because we might be expecting our partners to view us the way we view ourselves, and if they don't, they might see the good in us, but we don't see the good in us.
Right.
So we can never accept anything good from them.
Right.
Or the reverse. We might see, the good in ourselves, and our partners may not necessarily see it
right.
because of their trauma. There's
That's right.
so much at play.
Yeah.
And as a relationship coach, do you feel or do you find that a lot of the struggles that people end up having in their relationships comes from that place? Or maybe a better way for me to ask the question is, where do you see that are there any common threads?
Childhood traumas, that's really it. And everyone's childhood trauma looks very different. So you could have 10 people, and you have from physical abuse, sexual abuse, to neglect, to, just someone stealing your lollipop, and that scars you for life, right? So to someone else, that's like, really, what? That's nothing. But to that person, it's everything. So it just depends on what the particular trauma is. But yeah, when it comes to generational, traumas that have been passed down, and the way that our grandparents and great-grandparents and parents have handled certain things, that's huge, because I think in every human, and I'm saying this word a lot lately, there's a safety factor. There is the need to feel safe. And as a child, you don't know to articulate that. And so therefore, whatever's done to you, done around you, you're taking that in, and you're assessing it without even knowing that you're assessing it. You're deciding without consciously deciding, I feel safe or I don't feel safe. And so our parents and our grandparents, or whatever the case may be, I'm Bajan descent, and I'm first generation Canadian here. I was born here. Our parents did the best they could with what they had based on their parents and the way that they were brought up. I remember having a conversation with my dad many, many, many years ago. He's now passed. My dad hugged me. I was probably 28 or 30 maybe, I don't even know. Yeah. And I was like, what's wrong? Like, seriously, what's wrong? And he's looking at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, we don't do this. What's happening here? And I go to my mom, she's like, yeah, I know, he said he loved me. And I was like, I know, what's happening? Is he dying? Like, what's going on? Because that was not our norm. Yeah. And then at that point, I felt safe enough. And I love my dad, don't get me wrong. It was, again, it's all that subconscious, not really understanding what was happening. I felt consciously safe enough to ask the question. When we were younger, why did you hit us? Like, I didn't get that. And that was like, go get the belt. So you're getting the whip for him to hit me.
Talk about
it's crazy.
Trauma.
Yeah.
You have to get the tool.
Exactly. That they're going to beat you with. Exactly. So, and he says, Kath, we didn't know any better. Like, my parents beat us, and it was to keep us safe, because if we didn't, then we were going to go out there and do whatever. So there had to be this little fear factor going on. And I said, I get that. So he's like, we did the best we could. How it stopped was because I live in Canada and you're going to go to jail. So my parents caught on, because I can be quite lippy at times. And so my parents caught on very quickly.
So you threatened them, is what you're
pretty much, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That it ends with me. I also look at my marriage and I say, I remember when we were talking about getting married, my ex-husband and I, one of the things that I said, there was two things that I had said to him. I said, we're not going to live our parents' lives. My parents literally married till death did them part. They had their struggles, but they figured it all out in the end, which is, brilliant. His parents also, till death do them part. Yeah. But it wasn't always pretty, right? And I said, but I don't want to live that life. I don't want to just be in existence with someone. It has to be more than that. And when I realized that he was living out his parents' life, and I started to live out my parents' life, I said, this has to end. Like, I just can't do this anymore. And then also just being respectful of each other's differing opinions. That was very huge to me too. But when you come from, a place where people weren't necessarily all that respectful, because everybody just wants to be heard, then it's a challenge, and you have to, in your adult self has to be willing to do the work to understand that you need more and you deserve more.
There's a struggle that I think we all face from time to time, to different degrees.
Right.
About what we know we should do versus what we choose to do.
Right.
And it's not always cut and dry, clear, easy for us to do. The head might say, it's time to leave because of whatever. But then the heart might say, but they need me. Or, it could simply be that we might believe they need us, but really it's about something that we need, that we're sort of putting on them. And being able to find that, that healthy balance within yourself to be able to make, I can't say the right decision,
right?
But to make the best decision possible given the information that you have at the time is not always clear,
right? And
it can be like trying to look through a dirty window, right? It's a bit murky. So when people come to you and they're in that kind of a state, like, walk me through the process, I'm like, Kathy, I got this. This is where I am. This is my situation. What would be the process? What would the process be like for a new client coming to you?
Okay, so play out the scenario. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Specifics.
So I don't know. Maybe I should be leaving this relationship.
Okay.
But I know it's not healthy for me.
Right.
But I don't even know what the benefit is that I'm getting.
By staying or leaving?
By staying.
Okay.
I don't know what the benefit is for me to stay, or I may not even know the benefit for me to leave.
Right.
So if somebody comes up to you and says, this is what my dilemma, you're a relationship coach, fix me. So what do we do?
Yeah. So it's funny, you've said fix me twice now. And so let's talk about this fix me. Again, I don't fix people. They fix themselves. What I do is I help facilitate them fixing themselves because you have to do the work yourself. I think a lot of the time we are looking for an external validation to fix our issues.
Yes.
And when we look on the outside of us, it's not real. Okay, so it's another person's perspective of what we should be doing. It's someone telling us what we need to do. And then if things go awry, we can literally just say, well, they told me to do it. Kathy said. And it takes the onus off of them, which then takes the responsibility off of them. And they're right back to square one, right? So what I do again is have people look inside because you have the tools within you. You have the right answers within you. You know what you need, you know what you want. So it's baby steps to get them there. And there are a lot of people that are really, really resistant. And you mentioned, they need me. The other person might need me. I know that this is unhealthy for me, but the other person needs me. Yeah. And that's what we convince ourselves of. And that is a lot of my clients because we are the caregiving type, but more from the perspective of, how do I say this gently? We're the fixers. Yep. We're the ones that all of our friends come to when they need something. And unfortunately, what happens is when we need someone, it's hard for us to find that person to go to. So we are the fixers.
Gotcha.
And the reason we overstay our welcome, I think sometimes in relationships that we know are unhealthy for us, it's one word, it's ego. Our egos are so huge. And if we're willing to take a look at our egos, I didn't realize that I was going to be saying that word a lot to my clients, just because of the type of people that I do work with. Ego and the need to be right and the need to fix it is what keeps us stuck sometimes. And so I ask a lot of questions pertaining to ego and what it is that they're actually fighting for. You know, are they fighting to be heard? Are they fighting for autonomy? Are they fighting to be right? You know, like, what are you actually fighting for? Why do you believe that you're struggling through this when your conscious mind is telling you that this is not the healthiest place for you? And if you believe that it can be fixed, if you believe that if you did the work, that you could then lend something to the relationship and help heal the other person so that you can come back together, well, then that's great. And that's, what we talk about. But if the relationship is truly over, well, then we talk about that too. It really just, again, depends on where you're at.
Okay. If you're just joining us right now here on the Patrick O'More Show, if you like what we're talking about, and be sure to subscribe to the iLive webpage, iLive YouTube channel. Kathy Maloney is sitting in with me today, and we're talking about relationship coaching. Okay, so we've talked a bit about, trying to work out the relationship if you are in the relationship and you're trying to figure out what might be wrong and what you're trying to do to fix it. But if you get to, if somebody comes to you and they're like, I want out, I'm so done.
Yeah. I
can't do this anymore.
Right.
Then what? Do you still take them through a process to see whether or not there's a chance to salvage it, or is it just, all right, you want out, so let's fix that? Yeah.
And that's why I no longer call myself, I am a separation and divorce coach. Don't get me wrong. That's my specialty. I deal with separations and divorces because I understand the law and I can navigate that situation with people. But there are a lot of times when people can actually try to salvage their relationship. And a lot of it is because the other person in the partnership wants to stay, but they have decided, I'm out. Okay. So because the other person wants to stay and they've decided they're out, what I do is I help them solidify that they are out. Okay. So I play out many situations, scenarios. Sometimes I find clients who are now entering other relationships and how can I say this? They recognize that their current partner, being who they are, is good for them. But there may be lack of attraction. There may be something missing that they're seeking somewhere else, right? And so we have these conversations. So at the end of the day, 20 years from now, what type of person are you looking for? And sometimes it ends up being their current husband, wife, whoever.
Yeah.
And so it's okay. Are you sure you want to do this? What benefit are you looking to get from going on the other side? And sometimes they just need to leave just because they can't make the other person happy. They're making the other person miserable, and they can own that, right? And they are not willing to be what the other partner needs. And that's fair, right? Because I think also being honest is important. So, if they want out, and then we work on that. I'm not going to give away all my secrets. That's what people got to call me for. Come on now. And everybody's situation is very different. I know that we see all over, Facebook, Instagram, all these coaches posting, 10 ways to do this and 5 ways to do that. And that's great. It's general. And it's a base.
So you don't have a checklist of 10 lists. This is what
I could have a checklist of 101 different things. It doesn't mean they're relevant for you.
Okay.
Right? So the idea of hiring a coach, again, is to get very specific and be very, very specific to your needs. Right? And that's why people like myself are effective, because the generalization, and you can go to all these seminars and you can read all these books and you can apply some of the things here and there, but I also have the accountability factor, because you're going to see me every week or however often we decide to do our sessions. I individualize our conversations because I'm talking to you and you're the main focus, right? It's not about me, it's about you. So I will pull out whatever we need to pull out to get you to have greater understanding of yourself and your situation.
So for anybody who might be listening right now who might be in need of your services, how do they find you?
So I would ask anybody to email me at coach@kathymaloney.com. I do have my website. It's being revamped right now, but it's kathymaloney.com, and you can send me a message on there too, and I'll get it. So that's the easiest way. Because I like details too. So if you tell me a little bit about yourself, that's also helpful.
So without giving away too much of your trade secrets, what are some of the common misconceptions that people kind of come to you with?
What are the misconceptions about coaching, about relationships, about what?
About let's talk about coaching.
Okay.
What is it that they're coming to you? What are some of the things that they think that they're going to get from you that you're like, no, I don't.
That I can fix them. That I can fix them. That I have this magical power to just fix them. Mm-hmm. And I have to explain. So I have many clients who, okay, but what should I do? Yeah. What should I do? Okay, yeah, I know, but just tell me, Kathy. And I don't tell you anything. What I do is I help you grow in understanding. And I know I may sound like a broken record, but when I'm working with an individual, they get it, because there's so many layers to us all, and it's like the onion. I have to start peeling away at the layers so that you start to have a greater understanding of yourself and why you do the things that you do. And once you can figure out why you do the things that you do and maybe tap into some of the resilience, because you've been through a struggle before, you've been able to maneuver through a struggle before, well, let's figure that out. I often always look at what people like. So if you like baseball or if you like basketball or whatever, if I don't know about a certain topic, I'll try and read up and learn about it, because then I apply life examples and scenarios and metaphors to whatever it is that you like, so that you can understand where I'm coming from, and you can have visuals of, oh, this is what you mean. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I could try this or I could try that. So it's complex, but it's personal. And so, I don't fix anybody. They all think I can fix them. They think that I have these magical powers. They want me to answer all their questions. And for me to answer your questions and to send you out into the world like your friends do, that is a disservice that I would be doing to you. Because you have to figure this out for yourself, or you revert right back to where you started, right? And again, we talked about dating the same person over and over again, just a different, different body, different face, different whatever, but it's the same person because you haven't changed. And therefore you are still attracted to that same person because Kathy told you to do this, Kathy told you to do that. And then the next relationship you get into, you forget all that because it wasn't coming from a genuine place, right? And an honest place.
It's because you didn't say it the way I needed you to say it.
So
I could hear it.
Right. And I won't. Because that's not what we do. And I think that any coach that does that is doing you a disservice. Because this is about self-discovery, self-reflection. It really is about you getting in touch with yourself. You know, I'm like your secret weapon on the other side, you know, so that when you walk into the world, you're looking at things through a very different lens. You're questioning things more. You're questioning, why do I feel this way? Why did I just think that? Is this healthy? What am I supposed to learn from this? These are all the questions that you start to ask yourself, and you really do start to figure it out on your own.
That's a hard thing, because people, you know, everybody's kind of looking at it from a perspective of just tell me what to do.
That's
I'll
right.
do it.
Yeah.
So that, and when someone's in a place of pain,
yeah,
or insecurity, or, you know, so many different reasons, so many different things that would be going through somebody's head when they're in this state.
Yeah.
Right. They're just looking for a solution to make the pain go away.
Right.
And so they're looking for anybody that could be in their corner to say, here's the magic pill.
Yeah.
And you're going to be better tomorrow.
Right.
But it may have taken that person 40, 50 years of time to be the person they are right now.
That's right.
So getting that magic pill would be a challenge.
Absolutely.
Because now you have to start to question and
unpack a lot of stuff.
50 years of
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I help you do. I help you unpack that, because there is no quick fix. Like you said, it's taking you 30, 40, 50 years to get to the place of knowing this is not the life you want to live. This is not the person you want to be. These are not the type of relationships that you want to continuously be in. And I think, you know, to know better is to do better. And so when you finally get to the point of understanding that you need some help to sort of shift things within you so that you can start making different choices. I wouldn't say better, because I think you do what you can do the best you can in those moments, right? But now fast forward, because you've been through some struggles and you're realizing that what you've been doing is not working, because we know the sign of crazy, right? Is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Yep. And we do that way too often. And so when you finally are at that point where I don't know what to do anymore, that's when you call someone like me, and that's when we start to unpack everything. And I get no greater joy, and I'll be very honest with you, than at the beginning of a session. My sessions are an hour or an hour and a half. And so from the beginning of a session, my clients usually come in with one or two issues that they might have. And by the end of it, our goal is to have a little bit more clarity on what they walk, you know, so they had the big struggle at the beginning, and then by the time our session is over, a little bit of clarity, some homework to do. I call it life work, you know, and they go and apply it, and we revisit it. I have clients, you know, messaging me. I have people doing mirror work, for example, message me your finding, how are you feeling, what's going on, checking in, all that sort of thing. I am the accountability factor, but the most important thing is that you have to want to do the work. You really just have to want to do the work.
Homework?
Life work.
Life work?
Life work.
Homework?
Yeah, it's
really?
Same thing. It's same thing. You have to do homework, because if you're not doing the homework, then, like, again, there's only so much we can accomplish in an hour, right? But when they are smiling at the end of that hour, that's my biggest joy. Yeah. It's knowing that they've gotten something, and they had the breakthrough moment. They've had their aha moment, and we need to maintain that. So that's something that they have to put into practice, hence the life work or homework.
Do people struggle with the homework piece?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hence why I have them messaging me daily. Yes, they absolutely struggle, because you can start something and you could be on a roll. It's like going to Tony Robbins. Okay, if you've ever been to a Tony Robbins event or anything like that, there's such a high that you're on, right? You get such a rush from that, and you're like, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to be amazing. And it lasts for 3 days and right? Yeah. And so it's, again, the repetition, the consistency. And hiring a coach, I become the accountability factor. I am checking in with you. You are checking in with me to make sure that you do the work. If there's something you have to write daily in your journal, something very specific, either you're defining certain things, or you're logging how you spend your time, or you're logging your emotions. Something's happening where it's allowing you and lending to you being more conscious of why you do what you do. I had a client who spent a lot of time on the phone counseling friends, and she's not a counselor, she's not a coach, she's not a therapist, she's none of the above. She's a friend that everybody goes to, right? Hence why she's my client. And when she actually did the work and she wrote down the amount of hours or minutes that turned into hours in her day, she's like, oh my goodness, I've done nothing for myself, but I've given all these people all of this time, you know, and it's just simple things like that sometimes. It's like, well, why do you think you do that? What is it about you that makes you think that you can afford this? And what are you missing in your life by giving this time to other people?
So you help to keep them focused.
Yes.
On what they need to do to shift their thinking.
Absolutely.
Well, that's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
So why do you do this?
Because I love it. Because I just love it. I love seeing people have those breakthrough moments, because for me, it's not difficult to see that if they just shifted that thought, everything in their world opens up. And it's like that caterpillar to butterfly. You know, I want to be a part of that transition. I want to be a part of that change for these people. I think we're all born with gifts. I have the gift of gab, hence Kathy, Chatty Kathy, got it. My mother knew what she was doing. Okay. And I think I just didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And it's taken me, you know, for years to figure.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, you know, and going through
what number is that?
It's okay, it's all good. Yeah, it's taken me this long to, and a divorce, really, to find my voice and to find what it is that I should be talking about, because this makes sense to me. Because I think a lot of us put ourselves through undue traumas over and over and over again. And so if I can help people sort of unravel all of that, that's my blessing that I want to share with everybody.
You're helping people walk through a challenging time in their life.
Yeah.
To discover themselves, figure themselves out, you know, all that stuff. What do you learn?
Oh my goodness, I learned so much about myself. It's unbelievable. They're helping me as much as I'm helping them, right? It's just the service that they do for me is a lot quieter, because I don't know everything, you know. And I think anybody who says that they know everything is lying. First of all, we're in complete denial. And so from my clients, I really get a perspective about humans and just people and the struggle and the pain that so many people are going through. And I wish I could help everybody, but not everybody's ready for the help. You know, I'm not saying that I am, you know, I'll be like Kathy. No, I'm not saying that at all. Because
Kathy knows everything.
No, Kathy knows, no, Kathy's always learning. You know, I just know more than they do at this point in their life. Do you understand what I mean? So, and I'm learning from other people who know more than me about this journey, about relationships.
You have a coach?
I actually have two coaches. And so we kind of coach each other. So we have our little mastermind going on. So the coaches need coaches, right? Because we do have our issues too. You know, there's a lot of people that, like myself, in the beginning, it was that imposter syndrome. It's like, can I do this? You know, am I good enough to do this? Am I good enough to coach people? And so sometimes you too need that reinforcement, that positive reinforcement, and to look at yourself. You know, there's certain aspects of my own personal life. I'm not perfect, right? And so to be able to bounce how I feel and sort of the things that are happening in my world. I have two kids who, and I always say this, your children go through a divorce just the same as you do, if not worse, because they really have no control over what's going on, you know? And so to be able to talk to other people who were ahead of me in the journey of divorce, you know, with children and how they navigated through all of that and how maybe some of the things that I should be looking at, it's important. I don't know everything, right? So does that make sense? Did I answer your question? Sort of went off on a tangent there, sorry.
No, we're good. But yeah, I think that when people hear, you know, life coach, you know, relationship coach, they're going to often be thinking, okay, you know, they know everything. They got all the answers. They're going to be able to point me in the direction and and I'm good.
Right.
But I'm assuming it's not that simple.
It's not that simple. No.
And as you start to pull away the different layers that are involved in everyone's life, it's not easy to really look at yourself.
No, it's not.
And I would assume in your role with working with the people that you're working with, that you have to consistently look at yourself.
Yes.
And re-examine yourself.
Absolutely.
And then help them to re-examine. Like it's a never-ending thing.
It's not. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is a never-ending thing.
So when you get to, I don't know, the end of the journey with a client.
Yes.
Is there an end?
I have people who think there's an end, and then I get the phone call weeks later.
Yeah.
Right. Which I anticipate because it's great to feel empowered, because that's what I do. I consider myself an empowerment agent. I think anybody in the space that I'm in is an empowerment agent. Mm-hmm. That's what we're here to do, to empower people. And so when you feel empowered as one of my clients, it's a beautiful thing. And they think they can tackle the world. But life continues to happen. Yeah. Struggles continue to happen. And so they often then will have that 90-minute check-in. So they may not need, 6, 10, 20 sessions of an hour each week, but they can go 3 months, 6 months, or however long, and then something might happen and they know that they can call me. And we're gonna work it out together. I'm gonna ask the right questions, get them thinking along a certain lines, and get them to sort of hone back into themselves. Right? So that's the process, really, after the fact, once you think you're fixed. Yeah.
I'm fixed now. Good.
Right.
Everything's gravy. Mm-hmm. If you're just joining the conversation right now, here on the Patrick O'Moore Show on iLive Radio, Kathy Maloney is sitting here with me today, and we're talking about what it's like to be a relationship coach and some of the challenges that people face. Again, Kathy, if people want to reach out to you, they can do that through?
They can email me. That's the best way, coach@kathymaloney.com. You can also go to my website, kathymaloney.com, and there is a little section there that you can fill out and send me an email.
There's some comments online. Garfield Starling saying, so proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Garfield. That's a good friend of mine. Love it.
Okay, so we've got like 8 minutes left. Time flies.
It does.
If you had a chance to go back and talk to your 12-year-old self and have a conversation based on, what you've figured out now,
right?
About now that you got all the answers.
Yeah. Yes.
What would you?
Right.
What advice would you, or what would you tell your 12-year-old self?
So it's
advice or not advice, whatever. What would you tell your 12-year-old self about life?
Right. So
aside from buy some Amazon stocks when they were
right. I know, and Google and everything else I should have bought. So my 12-year-old self was actually quite fierce. So interestingly enough, I would say don't change. That's what I would say to my 12-year-old self, because I know who that person was. Okay. Not a lot of people, of course, can say that, but I personally can. And again, like I said, everyone's journey is different, right? Everyone's struggle, everyone's trauma looks different. I was that fierce, lippy kid. My parents. I live in Canada. You can't do anything to me, right? I was that kid, straight up. I was that kid. And it wasn't until I started getting into relationships, right? So I had my first relationship at 16 years old. And that's when you start to redo your parents' patterns. And that's when you don't even know you're redoing your parents' patterns, right? Okay. And so that's when my sort of coming into my own, and then the struggles may have started, things that you tolerated, things that you did. So when I was a kid, I would have said to my 12-year-old self today, stay the same. If you don't like something, speak up. If you need something, speak up, right? And that's what I did at 12 years old. It's just over time you grow up and you lose that. I lost that.
What do you think? What do you think was that caused you to lose that?
Again, I'm a fixer, and when you can't fix something or you can't fix someone, oh my goodness, because we try. It's frustrating, and your ego again kicks in, and you do everything you can. You bend, twist, turn yourself. You literally become a different person, and to the point where you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror anymore, because you need to make this work. There's a need to fix this, right? Because I can fix this, but you can't fix it, especially if somebody doesn't want to be fixed or somebody doesn't want to work with you and grow with you. So that was my thing.
That was your thing.
Yeah.
But it's common that, you know, so as, you know, I'm a father.
Yeah.
Watch my kids grow up. And, you know, for me, my style has always been, I always felt like it was my responsibility to help my kids kind of figure out who they are.
Right.
And then help them to nurture that into whatever that becomes. But then I realized for myself growing up that there was, you know, from a very young age, I kind of knew who I was.
Right.
Kind of knew the life that I wanted to create. I had my focus from I was like 8.
Right.
And but then everything around me was kind of like trying to get me to shift that, trying to get me to think about things differently. And my own traumas also impacted those things about my life as well.
Right.
But I think we, as human beings, we all have a pivotal point in our life that we can go back to if we can peel away those layers.
Right.
And go back to and say, you know, this is the fork in the road that I need to address.
Right.
As an adult.
Right.
I need to go back in time, do some time travel, and address whatever that was, whether, you know, it was my parents or the little kid who stole my lollipop, or
right.
She's laughing at my, you know.
Your trauma with the lollipop. Okay, yes.
It's my
Got
pain.
it.
It's my pain.
Got
it's
it.
my truth.
Yes.
You know.
It's someone's. That's for sure. I'm sure it is.
It's just not mine.
Right.
Oh, thanks. You know, there's some point we have to be able to go back to that place.
Absolutely.
Of the pain, the trauma, however it is we view it, and try to look at that and fix that. And that is...
It's hard.
Very hard.
Lots of tears. Yeah. Lots of sleepless nights going over and over it in your brain. Yeah.
Love that lollipop.
But it's important to do the work. Some of them are laughing. I love it.
I know. I got people in the background laughing at my lollipop story. It's hurting my feelings. Yeah. But yeah, you know, being able to, and you know, in the last couple of minutes that we have left, and I would definitely want to say, you know, it's important that if you are in a situation that you are struggling, if you are in a situation that you're trying to figure out what the next is, you know, that you reach out and don't necessarily reach out to people who you know are going to say what you want to hear.
Exactly.
That's just going to keep that cycle.
Keep you stuck, and you won't even know that you're stuck because you're getting validation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they got to reach out to Kathy.
Yeah.
They got to reach out to you. And, you know, what would you say to somebody who's in that situation right now?
The situation, we talked about many situations. Sorry.
They're in a situation, like right now, they're just looking at their life and they feel overwhelmed. And,
got it.
You know, what do I do?
Yeah, you know what?
Besides calling you.
So besides calling me, really, look in the mirror. If you want something cheap, easy, look in the mirror. Start having conversations with yourself in the mirror. You don't need to call anybody. You need to stand in the mirror, close your door, and you need to have an honest conversation with yourself. And it starts with, who the hell am I? You know, like what is good about me? Because there's something good about you. There's a lot good about you. There's a lot that you deserve. Feeling worthy is something that people don't think about, because a lot of people don't feel worthy of love. They don't feel worthy of peace. And so it's just accepting that you are deserving of everything great, because there's good in you. And if you can find it in yourself, then the goal then is to seek that from others who see it in you, or to be with others who see it in you, and literally tolerate nothing less.
Tolerating nothing less.
Yeah. And that's a lonely thing sometimes. And that's another thing. It's a very lonely journey sometimes. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, because, you know, the understanding that the difference between being alone and being lonely.
Very different.
And we're kind of conditioned, right?
Yeah.
To not be alone.
Right.
Which is weird, because many times I see that. Yeah, I see the thing. Thanks.
We're social creatures. We're social creatures. I know, we could talk forever.
We're running out of time.
We are out of time.
Yeah, we are out of time. Definitely want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. Those on YouTube have been putting some comments. Fantastic. I definitely have to have you back so we can chat some more. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
It's been good. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. Thanks for hanging out on the Patrick O'More Show. We'll be back next week at 2 p.m.
The promo for Always Digging. My name is Jeff Skull, aka DJ Scully Funk. Every Sunday afternoon, my partner Gary, aka DJ Gaza Taylor, and I choose a theme and play our